welcome to Work in Progress, the podcast where you write and we read. I'm Echo.
My name is Edmund.
And I'm the producer, Cyrus.
Nice. I think there's content warnings for gore, violence, blood. I feel like it's not too bad, but
That's why we have those. That's why we have those warnings.
That's why we have the warnings. Yes.
Yes.
So we'll start with a public domain piece to get the mood of the episode.
So, since today's theme is fantasy, I decided to look for a public domain piece with fantastical vibes to it. I found this one called A Bout of Two Nights by Sarah Sarah how do you say that name? Tezzadale.
Good enough.
Whatever. I'm sorry, Sarah Tezzadale. Two knights rode forth at early dawn, a-seeking maids to wed. Said one, "My lady must be fair, with gold hair on her head." Then spake the other knight at arms, "I care not for her face, but she I love must be a dove for purity and grace." And each knight blew upon his horn and went his separate way. And each knight found a lady love before the fall of day, but she was brown who should have had the shining yellow hair. I ween the knights forget their words, or else they cease to care. For he who wanted purity brought home a wanton wild, and when each saw the other knight, I seen that each knight smiled.
I have to lower your audio a lot. Sorry. But I've actually heard that piece. It was featured in the lost episode that I'm never going to publish. The other one. It was featured in the other lost episode that's just trash.
Yeah, the infamous lost episode.
No, it's the other one. You don't even know about it.
We have two infamous lost episodes.
That's fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
There's a second. You have two pilots that are lost. There's a second plane.
There's a secret second plane. And the secret second plane is, in fact, on my computer, because I actually did record that one, but it was just, like, absolute trash.
Yeah, I just thought that'd be a nice little fantasy mood setter. I mean, nothing really fantastical happened in it. It's not like knights aren't real, but it does have a very, like, fairy tale aesthetic to it.
It's like, I think it's also like just a poem about expectation. We're like,
yeah.
So that I like the last two scenarios as well. I guess it's kind of, maybe in a sense, like a lot of fans kind of an aspect of destiny or fate, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that, but then they get what they wanted, and it's more of like I appreciate the letting the two stanzas allow the interpretation of like, did they like what they had or they didn't, and I felt like that brought a lot to well.
I like the part where they smile at the end because it's implied like, like they're winking at each other.
Yeah.
They know what they actually like.
In a sense, yeah, like it's kind of like proclamation of what they're getting, but the reality is different. I think that gives a lot, grounds the piece, fittingly and ironically to fantasy, from fantasy. So. Like, they have their fantasy, like, the My Lady Must Be Fair with gold hair on her head. And then, obviously, the result was, like, completely different. But, yeah, I think that's a very good problem to start with our pieces, actually, as well. A lot of twists and turns.
Lots of twists and turns, and also wanton wilds.
especially with Jacob's piece, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Jacob's piece, the first piece we have comes from Jacob, last name, Jacob, insert correct pronunciation here when I ask him later, Nettois. It's called Ascendance in Shadow, Fear the Ape. For some context, this is a piece that is meant to act as a brief introduction to Jacob's latest narrative project, Umbral Enlightenment. Jacob is at The Horned King Reborn on Instagram if you want to hear more from him. To preface this, there are some typos, but we like to appreciate work in progresses here, and I feel no need to revise what this author is doing. The sound of soft footfalls on dried pine needles would have been impossible to hear for untrained mortal ears, especially in the midst of a strong mountain wind. But for Jurgen Bartnicki, a vampire of House Gabaris, heard them clearly. After all, he had spent centuries honing his senses, with his vampiric powers gifted by his glorious sire. He gestured with a pair of raised fingers to silence his scions in the midst of their gorging, with this night's feast being a family of campers that had gone too far off the path. The 4 vampires raised their heads from their feast and turned to where the sound originated from, peering into the darkness of the forest. Dim moonlight, deep-set shadows, the eerie rustling of needles in the evening wind. "I don't hear anything," the youngest of the foursome, Peter, said. "Besides, these were supposed to be the only ones on this trail." Jurgen forced down a hot spike of rage. No matter how many generations were sired, the new bloods always threw caution to the wind in the midst of feeding. He glared at Peter before shaking his head. They were supposed to be the only ones as far out into the wilderness, and had painstakingly hidden their tracks and the tracks of their cattle in order to throw off the other houses. And even if the spies of the local Tiberian chapter house were to have their familiar spying from the shadows, it was unlikely that they would send an incompetent servant into their rightful domain. The sound of pine needles crunching underfoot ceased, the sound of something rustling through the air, and then Jurgen jumped back from his meal, mustering the supernatural power in his blood to repel away from a large figure landing amongst his band, kicking up needles and momentarily blinding him. Already he could feel Ygritte and Tigan calling out to the local wildlife to aid them with this intruder, but who knew how long until a pack of coyotes or a bear would come to their aid. Peter stayed crouched and stared in stunned silence. The interloper that descended amongst their feast was larger than any human, and with a great deal more hair covering its body. Then it started rumbling. The sound reverberated through the night, rattling Jurgen's bones as the blood of his victims surged in his unliving veins. It felt as though the essence of his prey was constricting his limbs and dulling his senses. "What the fuck is that?" He could hear Ygritte bark, her gore-stained fangs bared. If she could spare seconds to speak, then it meant that help was on its way. Good. Tigan nervously retrieved a pen from his pocket and started twiddling it in his left hand, a tic that he retained from his mortal existence as an office worker whenever something unnerved or confused him. Is that a gorilla? The sounds of bones crunching echoed through the woods as a massive fist set Tigan Palthrow sailing into a tree, the pen in his hand softly hitting the forest floor. Tigan made a slight "gh" sound as he was impaled through the heart on a branch. There he hanged and flailed for several seconds until falling limp. Jurgen could see Peter's shocked expression melt away, his fangs elongated. No longer in shock, he was now filled with the frenzied edge of the thirst. The swift incapacitation of his fellow scion would not stand. Jurgen could feel his swollen blood churn. The creature stood up. It towered over Jurgen and his spawn, giving the Baron a clear look at the massive interloper, its coat a deep burgundy, adorned with bracelets and necklaces fashioned from amber and wood, its face deep set with the eyes the color of clouded jade, and held a large curved blade forged from a piece of black glass. As Ygritte had pointed out, it looked like a giant ape with human proportions. Wait, could that be a yell of rage erupted from Peter as he surged forward towards the creature, leaping to rip out his throat. In an instant, the blade of the creature flew forward and parted Peter's head from his shoulders, followed by a shower of gore that it rushed through toward Alexis, its eyes smoldering with grim determination. As Peter's head fell to the forest floor, Jurgen swore he saw his mouth. "This is bullshit," before he turned to soot and absorbed into the dust. Jurgen barely recognized the sound of a gun firing as the beast feinted to the right before pivoting to face Ygritte, who had pulled her Glock 17 and started to unload into it. But whenever the bullets landed, it seemed as though they simply slid off its form or indented themselves into its fur. As it was distracted, Jurgen rushed forward, letting his supernatural speed carry him towards the distracted interloper. Leaping into a kick, he aimed for the back of the hairy figure's leg in order to try and shatter it. After all, what could survive a vampire going at near super speeds akin to a ballistics missile? Suddenly, his senses screamed at him to dodge as he felt some tremendous force falling from the canopy above. Twisting his body in an unnatural angle, he was able to avoid the impact of another figure that he swiftly turned to meet this new figure. They looked similar to the other ape-like creature, but their fur was a dark gray. Instead of amber adornments, it wore a necklace with a totem tied to it. A scar ran down the left side of its face, a pair of cobalt eyes that seethed with cold resolve, and in its hand it gripped a large wooden staff inlaid with waves-like pattern. The beast's mouth opened wide, exposing its massive incisors, and let loose a heat-filled roar. Jurgen moved like a whirlwind of bloody rage, the power of the blood enhancing his movements to a blur that no living human could match. He flowed like a cold, cutting wind. He was elegant as only the dead could be. Using the gifts he had stolen from an unfortunate Werdolac who begged for his life when he was found encroaching on its territory, he coated his fingers in talons of diamond-hard ice. He crossed to the new intruder in 2 heartbeats as Egret descended on the other, a long silver dagger flashing out from under her long coat, and in unison slashed at their opponent's throats. But its eyes were already following the trajectory of the attack before it could land. It twisted its body in such a fluid manner it seemed as though Jurgen was punching water. The staff swung up. He felt the pole graze his chest. Then, somehow already falling on him, he saw the staff swinging back down. Evading the swing, he struck back with his ice-covered claws. He should have pierced the giant bastard, but instead the blood-magic claws broke on impact, with its fur taking the blow that would have turned mere mortals into frosty, bloody giblets. As quickly as he struck the hairy fuck, he swiftly engaged, leaping into the canopy. "So the little gnat wants to spill my blood," the gray beast grunted out. "It can speak." "Almost done here," the other spoke up, having dodged Egret's strike and restrained her with its massive hand before swiftly decapitating her, its voice stoic and cold as it turned its gaze to the spot in the trees. Off in the distance, he could hear a large animal, probably a bear, crashing through the underbrush, heeding the call of his slain scion. A bear would not be able to stop those beasts, the Baron realized. Another realization sprung to the Baron's mind. He could not survive 2 of these ape creatures, but perhaps the bear would buy him some time. Using his immense strength, he drove his fist into the side of the tree he was perched on, splintering its bark as its upper half came crashing down on its foes. Using the distraction, the Baron of Spokane leapt from the falling tree to another, launching himself a good 30 yards away, a mad cackle on his lips. He hadn't the faintest idea what was going on, and his eternal life was in jeopardy from unknown supernaturals. What else could they be? But there was a certain thrill that came from facing new danger that he hadn't felt in nearly 7 decades. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of ensuing conflict as the summoned bear engaged the 2 ape creatures, covering his escape. Impossible. It was utterly impossible. He was told that the ape-kin had long been extinguished, yet here they were in all their primeval ferocity. But before he could contemplate the return of such beings, he felt something pierce his lower spine. Jurgen landed roughly on the duff of a forest floor. He felt spinal columns shatter and ribs snap. The shock ran up his spine and down his legs, pulverizing bones, fracturing his hip on the right. Impaled to the ground and immobilized from the waist down, Jurgen forcefully turned his head and found the staff that was wielded by the gray ape sticking out of his torso. Using his supernatural hearing, he tried to figure out what the hell was going on, but instead of the sounds of conflict, he heard the soft padding of feet approaching him. Jurgen forcefully channeled the blood in his body to start fixing his splintered bones, pulling them together, fusing them in the spiteful forge of Morlock, in the dark hope that he would continue his escape. So the little gnat wishes to make its escape, using gifts and blood stolen from the desperate and the undeserving. It was the gray ape's voice. He saw the elusive apekin appear from amidst the densely packed trees. In its mouth now rested a wooden pipe glowing an ominous green in the night, sparks catching in the midnight breeze and swirling around its massive form. It seems you shade-eaters have gotten bolder if you are willing to spill blood in places that your sire dare not step. It seems their wisdom failed to pass down to you, unfortunate souls. The wilds are not your place to hunt, nor are the people that find contemplation in these places yours to feed on. Did you know you forgot one? He could feel his vertebrae slide back into place and fuse with scorching clicks. His hip bone would be next. It seemed to have shattered in multiple places. We did? He asked, stalling. You should have been more thorough, it said. Unfortunate for you. It leaned forward, taking a drag from its pipe. The green glow of whatever it was smoking illuminated its cobalt eyes, as deep and dark as a lake on the edge of dawn. Jurgen gasped. That was one side of his hip restored. Perhaps one more surge of blood and he would be able to gouge out this ape-freak's eyes before sinking fangs into its face. He grabbed the staff, sticking out from him, and tried to pull it from his back. It would not budge. No matter how much strength he applied, it would not move. It was as if the base of the staff had fused with the ground beneath him. He tried to push himself up and felt sharp thorns prick him from the inside, tethering him to the staff. For the first time in nearly a century, panic spread across Jurgen's face. I see you've figured out what's happening to you. You've gorged greedily on our siblings. Let us see that their energies return to the earth. Crap. The blood. Already he could feel it draining from his body and onto the ground beneath him and into the staff that trapped him. Desperately, he tried to pull it out again, clawing and scraping the wood to no avail. I hope your death served the world better than it did in this mockery of life. Already Jurgen could feel his energy leaving his body, his limbs overtaken by the growing roots as he felt his limbs rip apart and dissolve into soil. He had fallen for their trap. Tim Allman, warder of the people, took a long drag from his pipe before blowing a column of smoldering smoke upon the fallen Baron of Spokesane, who might have escaped if Layden hadn't calmed that bear in time. The vampire would have been able to reach the limits of the park in less than a minute and might have radioed for a whole hunting party to burn out the woods. Fortunately, the usage of the breath of dispersion upon the disintegrating Baron destroyed all remnants of this shadow child. No petty sorcery of these night children would be able to find these murderers' remains. He sighed as he pocketed his pipe in his hair, the fibers tying themselves together to hold the trinket, and observed the new pine tree that had sprung up from the vampire's resting spot. Already it had... What do you want? Are you trapped? What happened? What do you want? Already it had grown a story tall. What do you want? Already it had grown a story tall, slightly higher than himself, and sprouted healthy dark green needles across its branches. Feeling accomplished with the work of his ritual, he turned back to find Layton. After all, there was still a missing child they needed to find and return to their nest, before they could gather the rest of the troop for the upcoming conclave. That being said, that child's life is never going to be the same after this. After all, she knows about what bumps in the night. It's best to reassure her that there are things that bump back, he mused as the midnight wind rushed through his hair, a Johnny Cash song humming in his throat. Wow, I read that so well. Everyone clap.
I would clap, but it would peak my mic.
It would. I think it probably peaked mine, honestly.
No, the good to read. I actually do have a question. Is someone just reading the entire piece?
I just read the piece. I don't know what you're talking about. I just read it and did it in current times just now. Yes, that's what I did.
Okay, good.
This is my portion. I'm hosting this little bit, and I have some notes, like all nerds do. We have notes.
Thoughts, obviously.
To start, I really enjoyed this piece. I thought it was a very creative look at these characters. It's a brief introduction, yes, but we get so much in so little time, and I was never confused, which is great. Obviously, there needs to be a little cleanup with how things are phrased, maybe some sentence variety and length just to spice it up. I remember specifically the first paragraph was a little, I believe the first paragraph's only 2 sentences. And it's kind of thick. It's 3 sentences. So I thought there could be some stagnation with how long the sentences are. And I always like to really quick mention italics and font choice to add some variety in the dialogue and narration. The character Jurgen seems like a very angry character, and since the narration is told from a third-person account of his like biased POV, I kind of felt it could add some emphasis to some words or phrases. Like, even though it's narration and it's third person, I feel like since it's kind of in his point of view, it could be read as biased as well. You can have some fun inflections in the dialogue with some. But obviously, this is an audio show, and I cannot show you that. So, so I'm gonna move on a little bit. I also really like the names, like Jurgen. It's a very guttural sound, and it puts emphasis on the throat and makes me think of like vampire neck bite stuff. Also Tim Allman. Tim, it's normal, to the point. It also makes me think of Timothy, because that would be his legal first name, and I imagine that's what his mom calls him. And and I like it's kind of a simple first name, and it puts all the punch in the last name, Allman, where he's encompassing the whole world, basically, as I believe he is meant to protect it. I just really like all the lore. Again, it's sorry, my brain turned off for a sec. It's very easy to process, unlike me processing word information right now. And and it's kind of spoon-fed to you in a way that it's like, okay, every fact that we hear is relevant later on in this I guess like 10-page piece. And
7 pages, yes.
7?
7 pages, yes.
Yes. So it all like comes back, like explaining how the blood works in this universe. This vampire was very interesting to me, and gory, which I kind of like. But I do want to let my comrades here say their 2 cents if they wish. I have more to say, but I'll do it after.
Hi. Yeah, so regarding the piece, Jacob's piece, there is a lot of descriptions really good. I would say I agree with Echo that the beginning is a little dense. Some variation with sentences would help a lot. I think, especially with I think this looks like it read to be like a draft. There are some grammatical issues, but I was mostly reading for the substance of the and the content for it. I think a lot of the beginning is more, I guess personally to me, is read like notes, where I'm not really getting personally. Maybe just me personally, I felt like so like basically like a statement like Jurgen forced out a hot spike of rage in the third paragraph page is really nice, but then after that it says no matter how many generations were sired, the new bloods are always taught in the midst of feeding. I feel like that could have been more of an action than an explanation. There's more telling than showing in some of these statements. And maybe with a group that the 4 vampires. So we already mentioned the 4 vampires. Maybe some of the vampires maybe like jerk to the sound, like jerk their head to the sound, or some kind of action that really brings the reader into this thing. Like I'm always kind of a stickler for like not stickler, but I'm always a big fan of onomatopoeias, where you're writing the sound of what's actually happening, so people can really tell what that is. Maybe get that crunch or the sound of how they're feeding. I get those really like I like to use the word, but it's the word intimate. Like let the reader in and really kind of just again experience that. If they're in this scene right now, how would it sound? How would it sound? How would it feel? And there's obviously some descriptions and some statements that really get to that point, but I kind of want more of that. I personally want more of that. I think it would help a lot with how to establish just if they're like, because there's obviously different variations of vampires throughout fiction and media, and it'd be really nice if it is something different. How is it different? How does the reader gonna enjoy this type of vampire.
Mm.
And like I like this, or it's like the sound reverberated through the night of ramming Jurgen's bones as a blood of the victim surgeon and this unlooking man's like, that's good. I want more of that. Give me more of this. Understandably, this is a draft. I think like what it's more of like getting like having even as a third person narrator, there is still some kind of personality within how a character is being directed, right? If even if you're like a if it's an omniscient narrator, for example, they'll still put a personality how Jurgen feels and says and things like that. I think some of the explanations are good. I like Echo has referred to. It is relevant, but I also feel like I think he needs to cut down on explanation and just let us go through that. Like having to introduce Tin Allman, where I feel like maybe I always kind of think it in a way where, like cinematography. Like how do you introduce a character that's an actual scene in a show or in a movie? It's just because like Tim Allman, Warder of the People. I feel like the title is a little too official. There's this really interesting disconnect that either could be played in a few ways. Could be like you have the tone change to Tim Allman to be this kind of bureaucrat, things like that. But I don't really read that. I personally don't really read that.
I do also feel like this type of narration, this third person, it kind of felt like it was following Jurgen in a way, and like almost as if it was speaking his mind like from an outside perspective, kind of like a little bit omniscient. And so the fact that we get Tim Allman's like official title is as like it's sure you could have his name if you want, but like Jurgen doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away from that like following him.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Where like a lot of focus is Jurgen and his. I forgot the vampire term for group. There's an entire thing. Like Covenant, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But I'll say Covenant for this context. But that's a there's this really I think there'll be an interesting dissonance to apply here. But I feel like there's like I wish I could read the intention more. Because introducing Tim Allman at the end, it just seems out of place. So from there, it's this. This is really. I think it'd be interesting disconnect, like an actual intentional disconnect of Jurgen just died, right? And then like going back to Tin Allman, I feel like it's doing that, but then the explanation, it's like the vampire was able to reach the limits of the park in less than a minute by a radio for a whole hunting party to burn out the woods. I kind of wish there was a point where it had him start pondering that. And there is kind of aspect like him taking a long drag of the pipe, and like, okay, I'm starting my thoughts here. But there is no personality to that either. There's a lack of personality. There's a weird distance for certain statements that I wish would be more intimate.
I think the dialogue it kind of feels like they're narrating again, but like more casually, and I kind of wish the actual narration was more casual like the dialogue. I don't know how to explain that.
It does sound like there's two narrators than a character talking, or expressing.
I do also have like a big problem to express, but let me know when you're okay.
That's all I was gonna say. Good.
There's a problem to consider, and I don't think this was intentional, and I don't even think it's something that like anyone else would notice. But I like the names, but also the names. As the resident vampire expert, I feel confident in claiming that title unless someone wants to oppose me on it. As the resident vampire expert, I'll let you know that early vampire media, Dracula 1931, Dracula's Daughter, Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's book, all kind of portrayed the vampire as kind of like the foreigner that stole women and were bad because they conflicted with the lives of normal white men. So having the vampires be referencing things like Tiberian chapter houses and names like Egret versus white boy Timothy over here.
It's actually, it is
Like,
actually.
it gave me some colonizer vibes, especially because he straight up killed Jurgen and the rest. And vampires are like kind of synonymous with foreignness and different equals bad mentality, as are most Franken monsters.
It could be. Well, that's a very actually pretty interesting insight. It could be in the sense that if because if Jacob actually wants to kind of approach in a way where vampires are, it'll strange in a way minorities when most media vampires are often portrayed like rich and very very pale.
Oh yeah, they're the Eastern European people.
Right, right.
It's
So
bad.
that right, like a lot of monsters often portray the worst or the absurd. So yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's very unintentional.
hmm
But,
I think it's just
but
the
yeah,
fact that they're using vampires, which are kind of already have their own history and
their own
problems.
their own mythos and their mythos. Yeah.
hmm
So I would say I think just coming back to the dialogue just a little bit.
Mm.
It does right. I think you really hit the nail on the head here about like it does sound like a narration. It doesn't sound like a character talk or expressing. It just doesn't sound like that, unfortunately. I would say when I was reading through it, I often think fantasy is more medieval. I was really surprised at the Glock 17 in the piece. I don't know why. Like I find that's not a bad thing. I just find like, oh, okay, it's modern, but also, you know,
Something
like,
about it, like my first reading of it, something about it made me think it was like, I think it was the use of the word charter house, where I was just like imagining they were in the forest and like also hikers. It kind of just made me think, it kind of made me think they were like camped outside a frat house or something.
something. Yeah, I kind of felt the same where they're like on a campus.
I
But
was
I
like
feel like
thinking woods outside a shitty neighborhood or something.
you're right. So I think there's some I think there's some good stuff in this. I think a lot of it just comes to an aspect of organization. Like I do like these small details, like Tegan, like the sounds of bow crushing echo throughout the wood as a massive fist sent Tegan and Patro. But like the problem is like Tegan and Patro, like I know he's trying to introduce this character, but Tegan and Patro sounds so official. It sounds like a report. I feel like I'm reading a report, which again, it could be a like an episodic kind of thing, where it's like you are reading a report, but it doesn't. I again, the intention of it being official or bureaucratic is there. Like I don't know, the biggest example we have in recent, not recent, but more or less recent media is like SCP Foundation, where there are people writing little fictional reports about supernatural things. Same thing. I like if you played the game Control, things like that. Like these things has a precise intention to read it that way, where you are supposed to read a summary and a report of what was going on. I feel like if this comes back to the chop to the cutting floor and being like, okay, we need to make this a bit more personal, maybe a bit more like I said, like more onomatopoeias, like really emphasize that bone crunching, like let me feel the bone crunching. Thank you. Like even have where maybe if his main narrative is focusing on Jurgen, maybe Jurgen like darting his eye, I've seen Tegan flying onto a tree and hearing the sound, like maybe because I write a lot of first person, so for me I always focus on how the character's inner thoughts are, or in that moment maybe Jurgen kind of already senses the sound, like almost like the feeling the air of Tegan just fucking flying or just flying through the air and then hearing that crunch. Because I heard that maybe in a way there's a way to put suspense, like may imply suspense of like Jurgen only recognizes that sound when maybe he snaps someone's femur, which is a very horrifying sound. right? So he could that way there's some personality, there's some personal stake to Jurgen being like, I'm in danger and yet I'm a vampire. Because usually vampires are a lot stronger. There's this intimidation of being a vampire, and as a vampire, he's scared, he acknowledges that this is a threat, right? So like I think a best way to summarize like more personal stake with the characters than just having it being summarized in a way. Like saying Tegan Patro in a segment makes it feel like I'm in attendance. Like, hey, like Tim Allman, are you here? The Tegan Patro, are you here? Kind of thing. Again, I'm not trying to, yeah, Prezi. like, like I think it's good to have Tegan just the first second. Tegan looks like he's about to just, like literally the last few, the next few scenes, he goes, he dies. Yeah, and like, anyway, obviously Jurgen gets angry, his things long in it, but I kind of, these statements need to have an emotional intention.
I want to feel that anger.
I want to be like being
mad.
that shocked, or Jurgen just completely in shock, like, or just anything. However this character needs to feel in the moment. Jacob needs to just capture that, and then like at that moment, like how, like I don't know. I guess a good example, that isn't mine is like it's like if you're looking at fireworks, how do you feel about that? Like do you think about the color, the explosion, and like getting just the actual like the emotional content? Like, as Bruce Lee says, like, you have to have the emotional content, otherwise you can't sell the hit. And unfortunately, it doesn't sell that emotional content for me for some of these paragraphs. And it's like, damn, I want to see that. I do want to feel that when I'm reading. Really feel the tension, the fear, the danger.
I want to feel like I'm gargling on my own blood, but like...
in a way, yeah. In a sense, like I want to. I guess as a reader, not personally, but I want to feel the character going through that. Like maybe Jurgen reacting as Tegan just, his life is fading away before him. Maybe a clench of the fist, and as he clenches his fist, his fangs along. It's like there's an anger to it. Like, this is my scion has passed right before me, like or it could be like a sense like Jurgen doesn't care. It could make him very like.
I'll just get another body.
like really, this took me so long to get this person like raised up to this point. But the reaction is so minuscule. If you want a character, like it could be two different ones, right? It could be Tegan is not a character that is important, but his name is still mentioned, so that way we can know that, hey, this person died. Cool. And then have Jurgen being like, I don't care about this. Like it took, but maybe his stake is that his personal stake is like, damn, it took me months to get this dude back to form. Like he's a fresh vampire. What the hell, man? Right? But like that's
I do like the kind of contrast of like naming a character, making them seem like important, and then they immediately die. But
I definitely keep that. I just want to make sure. Yeah, but there's no, because since it's focused so much on Jurgen and before his death, it feels like, hey, this is the focus. We're focused on Jurgen. How does Jurgen feel? How does Jurgen react, et cetera, right?
I do have a suggestion of like a kind of, I don't know, in my head I was just coming up with like a kind of exercise you could do, and to kind of try to make it more personal, try to make it more casual, I'll say. Which is grab a friend who hates themselves, I guess, and just try, sorry. I was kidding. Try to kind of get in the mindset of your character and explain it to them. Like, read it once, get your, like, remember your plot, don't look at it again, and then be like, okay, Jurgen is hanging out with his people. He doesn't really like them very much, but he's hungry, so he's there. Like, try to explain it to someone who hasn't read it.
Yeah.
And if you want, you could record your voice and just take what you
yeah,
said.
I think the core aspect of that advice is like having other people listen to what you're saying and seeing if it fits. Like it's obvious that like honestly it's obvious. I'm still looking at that clock 17 statement. Like that kind of in a very interesting sense blew my mind in a way with oh this is not that medieval, so it is fantasy though. It's like modern fantasy. Okay. Like I think that's like so yeah, I was just thinking and I was just processing. I think that page, that first paragraph, first two paragraphs of that page is a little confusing. Now I think about it.
We don't have to get nitty gritty.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to my critique phase now. Anyways, I think
Remember that no one can see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think to summarize, there's some pretty good bits on it. I just think it just needs a bit more organization, a bit more emotional content with some of the interaction. Like even in a third person narrative, there is personality to always omit. Even when you're describing someone, there's always a tonality with it that allows that character to really blossom with a lot of things. But there's always something that within the paragraph, within describing a character or how the character interacts or says or feels, there's always that personality with that. There's always an individuality that you can depict. Even if they die, there is still an aspect of them still having a personality. Like before the moment, their very moments fleet away as they get ripped apart by an ape. Even so, it gives this kind of impact. So why do they die like this? It gives us intrigue, having this investment. Like as a writer, allow yourself to invest in your characters that aren't just tools. They are characters, even if they are going to die in the next 5 or 6 pages. Like really invest your characters, and I guess in this regard, in the result, how they die. Right? I like Peter's bullshit where he's just kind of accepting his death. Maybe he didn't die. Maybe he just turned into soot. But this aspect, like I like that because it's so on point. Like I don't have to know who Peter really is, but how he reacts in that moment is already really strong. Right? Like let the moment be that moment. Really emphasize those moments.
Awesome. The next piece comes to us from Kaya Pritchett. This is a work in progress by Kaya Pritchett, who says, "This is a scene from my developing fantasy series, the Nemesine Cycle." You can find Kaya at Kaya the Cat, ChaiaTheCat, on Instagram, where you can find the link to her album, Spectral Memories. The girl without a name staggered toward a town whose name she did not know as the final fires of King's Sun were extinguished by the horizon. Her skirt was a ruin of mud and fraying edges, and there were dead leaves clinging to her cloak. The pack on her back almost seemed heavier than she was. If someone were to ask how she was feeling at that moment, her answer would have been cold. With her head slightly down, she dragged her feet forward as if she could not remember how to do anything else besides walk. Automated. She was reaching a wooden structure that seemed small in the front, but stretched to about 4 times its height in the back. The wall that was closest to her was lined with barrels the size of a 9-year-old child. The windows showed a beacon of lantern light, but there were no raucous voices, peals of laughter, or notes of music erupting from the place. Clearly, if this place was an inn, like the girl hoped, it was a quiet one. She pushed on, the smell of ale and phoenix stew confirming her suspicions as she pulled the door open. A quick scan of the room revealed a small huddle of men dressed in characteristic farmer garb at a table near the bar, 2 women a bit older than herself deep in conversation by the small wood stove, and a singular male figure in a gray cloak sitting at the edge of the bar, turned so he could see the rest of the room. A man with a red beard emerged from below the bar, rubbing his head as if he had knocked it. The warmth of the stove permeated the girl's body, but something inside her still felt icy and distant, like the sky when the stars were hidden. She placed herself onto a stool at the end of the bar, as far away from the cloaked stranger as possible. The bartender noticed her and leaned in as he said, "What can I get for you tonight, dear?" Although his beard was bushy and matched his stocky frame, his head was so shiny that the girl half expected to see a reflection of the rafters on it. "Ale," she responded in a voice that reflected how little she had spoken in the past week. She paused and considered before saying, "And a bowl of stew, too, please." "Very well, then." The bartender turned around to fetch a glass and filled it with yellow-gray ale. His movements were matter-of-fact and without showmanship, but he held the glass at the same expert angle that the girl had been taught in her old life, to keep the foam from overtaking the liquid. He placed it in front of the girl and said, 5 coppers. I'm not going to charge you for the stew since I've never seen you before." The girl wordlessly shoved her hand into the side pouch of her pack and, by touch, finangled out 5 coppers. She pushed the money across the bar with a clipped "thanks." The bartender picked up the coins in his meaty hand and stuck them somewhere she couldn't see, then stepped through the doorless frame that presumably led to the kitchen. She studied the wood that the bar was made of, a modest walnut. It was full of ripples, which she began to trace with 2 of her fingers, that were occasionally interrupted by a knot or the initials of some past patron. The girl's following of the wood grain was interrupted by the sound of a bulb plunking in front of her. "Thank you," she said without lifting her eyes. The man tapped her left hand, the one she had been using to study the wood, prompting her to follow the side of his arm up to his torso and face. His eyes were green and wrinkles were just beginning to show around them. "Hey, what's your name?" "Aoife," the girl answered. It was a perfectly believable name for this part of the world. She said it quickly, immediately, as if she had been sitting prepared for the entire day. "Where did you come from?" "Behind me." The girl took a sip from her glass of ale. "Where are you going?" The man folded his arms across his chest and cocked one eyebrow, which was as red as his beard. Forward. No doubt that this man was the sort who sometimes tried to get travelers to make up for what they lacked in coin in conversation and stories. Unfortunately, she was not the sort to play into that tactic and was set on keeping her mouth shut as much as she could. "Well, Aoife from behind," he pronounced the title deliberately. "I'm Gavin the innkeep, the sole proprietor of the Signpost Inn." "Yet the road leading here has no signs." "That's the point, you see." Gavin grinned and pointed at the girl. "Where we are, that's the signpost, the cue that you've entered the humble town of Berwick." He spread his hands out to emphasize the space around him. At this, the girl made a grr sound and turned her focus toward her bowl of stew. Gavin the innkeep, sensing the girl he knew as Aoife who came from behind did not want to talk, scuttled back into the kitchen to distract himself. It was when the girl was finished with her stew and had about 2 swallows of ale left that she felt a tap on her shoulder. She jumped and whipped around to see the man in the gray cloak from the other end of the bar. He had removed his hood to reveal a handsome, fatherly face with sprightly gray eyes and a neat silver beard and hair. "If you're Aoife," he said in a moderately pitched voice that reminded the girl of autumn wind, "then I'm the king of Zembla. I think I've had enough questions from strangers tonight." The girl crossed her arms and shifted her eyes away from him. The other patrons were gone, leaving an empty room cloaked in the yellow of lantern and firelight. "To me, there are no strangers." The man stuck his right arm out and rolled his sleeve up, revealing a bare wrist. On his delta of veins was a dark red glyph that the girl recognized from a long-since thought-about book that lived in the satchel of Crimson the Archivist. "You're a namer," she gasped. The namer nodded. "I am Mahon, the head namer." It was true, the glyph was more ornate than that of the ordinary namer. Not that the girl had much practice comparing the two. The vacancy inside the girl felt more hollow than ever. "Do you think you could tell me who I am?" "As truly as Gavin back there can pour ale," Mahon assured. He stared straight at the girl, his winter day eyes boring into her very being. "You are Nemesis." She felt like a tree that had just absorbed a year's worth of water and sunlight in those few seconds. She wanted to cry, laugh, sing, spin around the room like she did as a child. The empty feeling had been replaced with a buzzing warmth, as if her heart were finally beating after a long pause. Nemesis! Her name was Nemesis! But then she furrowed her brow as elation at her newfound name turned to confusion. "I was told several things pertaining to the identity of Nemesis. That she was a myth, or a fraud, or a villain, or that she had once lived but is no more. I was never given the possibility she was alive today, much less that she was me." She instinctively touched the medallion that Crimson had given her. "Whoever your teacher was," began Mahon, "started you on the right path, but did not tell you everything. You are Nemesis after the Matrona of Terrare, the first of the archivists. You have the power to see the past directly, and there is only one of you in all of Ola. You are not a myth or a fraud, and part of why I'm here now is to make sure you do not become a villain. I say it again, you are Nemesine. That's awesome. I had a lot of fun reading that. And again, that was a work in progress by Kaya Pritchett. You can follow her on Instagram at Kaya the Cat. That's ChaiaTheCat on Instagram.
And to start, I like the idea of, especially the first statement. So I'm just going to read the first sentence, and we'll go from there. So the girl without a name staggered toward a town whose name we did not know, and it talks about this girl just walking towards the wooden structure, going to a town, and it's very kind of cozy in a way, where you have this kind of, especially like her skirt was wearing mud and fraying edges, like maybe she's running away. But this is very
Oh, I forgot. We just read it.
Yeah.
We just read it. I forgot we just read it. Sorry.
Okay. I was just going to start with that, the preamble.
Yeah.
And well, this is pretty short. It's only 3 pages too. And there's this, I would say it does kind of jump the shark at the end.
I think this is like more will come next. This is just an excerpt, I believe.
Yeah.
I really liked the descriptions. They're all very colorful. Even when color isn't specifically said, I could feel it. I really like the description winter day eyes, you're picturing blue, icy, cold. Despite it being an old inn and a drab environment, it did feel very cozy, to use your word, and colorful. I could imagine the sun. It was very nice. I it very, very tavern, very, sorry, that's just a noun. Very nice. I like Chaya's descriptions, kind of pointing our eye at something more than that's visually interesting, rather than describing every floorboard, I guess.
In a way, there's a focal point with how Chaya kind of directs your eye to. I do think that the descriptions there is, well, this is an excerpt and this is a work in progress. It'd be nice to format, because there's a huge paragraph about the place. Right?
You could definitely break it up between dialogue and etc.
Yeah, just break up the description a bit, allow the reader to take a little break, because there's a huge paragraph or describing Catherine. I think especially with the dialogue, again, this is a work in progress excerpt. Obviously, formatting comes a little bit later, but reading through it, it does help, because also, not to be, I don't think it's snide, but I think formatting helps a lot with not just readability, but allowing to establish pacing, right? So if I were to have this huge paragraph, okay, I'm gonna cut it here, maybe it says clear if this place was an inn, like Gore hoped there was a prior one, and then the last sentence you pushed on, I would cut that to another paragraph where a quick scan and she pulled the door open. I would definitely do that to allow that. She wants to confirm her suspicions, and the next paragraph, I think, definitively confirms her suspicions or not, right? I'm going to put it as even a colon or a semicolon, right? Maybe say a quick scan of the room revealed a small huddle of men, right? So that way, there's this nice pacing to it. There's this aspect of just where we're not reading a big paragraph, we're using the word experience, where it's just kind of just a stream.
Punctuation and paragraph format is very important, but again, this is an audio show.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, I really I like the descriptions. I love how much focus there is within how the girl is being how it's this, how it's interacting with patrons and the bartender.
Yeah, very personality.
There's a lot of personality, right? Absolutely.
I'm speaking bad today. I just said very personality.
That's still. I mean, it's fine. It's English. As long as that's all I care about, we can understand you. That's it.
Yeah. I just noticed like we're kind of being again drip fed information about this world, but in a way that's not super intimidating. Like again, this is like 3 pages long, and we get little bits that kind of characterize the world, like King's Son and some
The
other
King's Son
things.
is like,
Oh
yeah.
shit, I forgot my cat's outside. I have to let her in. Sorry, I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I was talking. What? Okay.
Welcome back.
I had to shut the door on her because she got out. But my new cat, I'm scared my new cat will just leave, like just escape. But Panther's good and she doesn't escape. But she was outside for like an hour with the door closed. I feel so bad. I heard her meow from the window and I was like, no.
I think she's meowing right now as we speak.
Yeah, she's meowing right now. I'm giving her some pets that she deserves. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Anyway, move on. Or not move on, but
Go on.
continue, yeah.
Let's see. I would say I think this is a good excerpt. I think there's some things to work on. There's some things that I would say. Funny enough, the length is nice, but if there's explanation, I'm a personal believer that length isn't really that important. People will read your stuff regardless how long it is. If it's interesting enough and it really catches their attention, the length is not the biggest concern. What biggest concern is what does this length really tell us, right? If this was, 100 pages, if I don't know, an expert for 100 pages is kind of wild, but if it was like, oh, this is always interesting. It always catches my attention. I'm involved in it. I want to be involved in this. I want to see how this thing develops. It's like length doesn't matter. I would say while this is getting the keynote, but I do say as an expert, it does get the keynotes right there. It is concise. That's a really good thing to have, especially for the format that is being submitted, and especially as a work in progress. Like I can see where the intention of just having this description, where my former complaint of, maybe I wish it was a little expanded a bit more, where I think, oh wait, as an excerpt, it's really good on that, but if there's ways to expand on it in the future, and as a draft, I like where. So I kind of wish the lead wasn't buried too deep, even from 3 pages. I wish there was some doubt of her name, because the name is a very fascinating concept in itself. Like, this person just gives out.
Just like, oh, I know you.
In a sense, but it's also like in a fantasy aspect. I think a lot of, especially concurrent fantasy media often plays around the idea of fate and destiny.
Ah, yeah.
Right? Right. So it's an aspect of like
some doubt.
It's some doubt, but also this namer is literally giving the main character, Aoife or now Nemesis, an actual destiny, like a purpose, right? And that's interesting. It's interesting to have this kind of prophet show to be in a sense like this person literally just gives out names. But then we have this obvious cultural significance of names that I think that Shia is really kind of trying to develop in this fictional piece, where a name is very important. Like even how in real life how we perceive names also has its own meaning, has its own cultural significance, has emotional and personal significance. Like the name, you having the name Sean and Echo, right? Right. And you chose that name because it has significant meaning, or in your context specifically, but right, but that's what I mean is that like this is really it's a really interesting concept in itself, right? What does a name really mean within this kind of fictional society? If there's
Name
a
is
head namer,
name is like who you are, it seems, and
right, in a
I kind of think
very
that's interesting.
like in
Like
a
making your
more
own destiny, choosing your own name, also.
right. I think in this way, maybe this main character does choose their own destiny and choose their own name. It's almost in a sense same thing with like Muslim belief, where you change your name because of that faith, and it's like that's your devotion to that faith, right? So, but being given a name is also really different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
This is
I
who
think in
you
this
are.
right. And this is yeah, exactly. This is this statement to it. And like I'm always when I was reading through it, I had a suspicion of like this where it is I'm glad that E4 now limousine that I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that all the time. Hold on. Nemozine. Yeah, Nemozine's actual name, right? Being called Nemozine, like she seems really, there's so much relief, like this aspect.
There's a lot of relief, but I imagine that will kind of come to a close as she realizes all the stakes of having a name, of having a destiny that is chosen for you.
Right. I it could be in that turn, like that's what I'm thinking as well, where maybe the Lizzie doesn't like her name as she progresses to being this person, but also the sense of like how maybe in another very human way, like our desperate struggle to have an identity, or almost in a sense to have an identity to be acknowledged, right? Like throughout, I like this buildup of her just making up this name Aoife, right? Where like I like this reply where like she when she answers and then the bartender asks where do you come from behind me because she's probably pointing at the door basically just motioning the door, but it's really cute. I like
Yeah.
these small things where like now she has a purpose, but also like I've seen a lot of stories with feet, like even Greek mythology is very like fate is not a good thing to like
Oh,
having
for
your
sure.
predisposed to fate, having the most fate in Greek mythology, especially, is that a good thing? Actually,
Oh,
I keep think
I love fucking up prophecies.
you're right. And so, in the aspect of like maybe this is a prophecy that she's only taking in because maybe in the society, let's see, like in the society where a name is that important, like there is a head namer, like meaning that there's a person who just gives out names or gives out purpose in a way, and that's really like
That's
to me
like
that's very
godly.
nefarious. Yeah, exactly. It's very godly. It's a lot of authority to that. And I always suspicious of that. Where like where you what makes you think you have the authority to give someone a name? But then kind of thinking about it, like like me calling Edmund, that's my my birth name. No, like it's very I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of like digging into holes here, digging more holes just for my own self here and living in it, but I think it's a very fascinating concept to really emphasize the idea of names and the idea of names and identity of how this is kind of a trope. Obviously, the prophet telling the main character like their purpose,
Yeah.
but it's done in a way that it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That it puts this kind of like this role of a prophet of like you don't even have a name yet. Or the fact that you don't even know what your name really is yet. So I'm gonna start like really starting from the ground up, and then putting this intrigue of just like what I would say. Yeah, that's sorry. I was just trying to find critique, but it's not.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
going on with this piece, I hope names come back as like synonymous with identity, and I hope that they keep coming back. Like it seems like if this is the beginning, I hope that this establishment won't go away and will be consistent with her struggling with this prophecy and with this identity. And also, I just have a tidbit. In my opinion, the oracles in Greek myths, in real life, they would probably be making shit up, and then it would just like come true because someone made it come true. But
Right. There's a link to a thread. It's like, oh, that must be true. It's like, kind of.
You
but
kind of
we'll
make
spin
it true
right?
as soon as you know about it.
Right. But like that's why I'm like maybe because I am an adult, and it helps. It helps that like it helps that it doesn't have a healthy amount of skepticism.
Yeah.
But I think with this character, it is very real because it does seem like she is always struggling with who she is, and finally having a person just telling who she is like, yeah, I can see where people get really convinced about that, like in that moment.
Yeah,
Where
for
it's like,
sure.
it's that easy. It's like, okay, shit. If I just had one dude telling me what to do, like that must be really easy.
Yeah. I
You
foresee
know?
you will eat breakfast tomorrow morning. Like,
Right.
oh
But I
shit.
guess in a way, but it's not just the obvious or even it's this, like, oh, it's a prophecy. Like this is
Mhm.
who you're supposed to be. But like any person is like, but how do you know that? Right? Like with I'm a head namer, I have authority to tell you what your name is, which I always find like and to maybe to me how I'm reading, it's like I'm already suspicious.
The
I'm
fun
always very
thing that I just
yeah.
thought of is
Mhm.
he says this is your name, this is your prophecy,
Yeah.
but like he could easily just have like picked a random girl and said this is your name, this is your prophecy, and like we have no like despite being a namer, we don't know if he's just choosing someone he wants to fulfill a prophecy that he made up. We don't know how true it is in this universe because we are seeing it through Aoife or Nemesine's point of view, and all we know is this guy, he magic. So I think it would be interesting for him to be revealed to be like, I just thought you were like spunky and and thought you'd be good to fulfill this prophecy. Like
Yeah.
I love the idea of yes, you are the fuck. What happened? Oh my god! Oh my god, cat! I have to save my cat really quick. She just tried to jump like up from the kitchen counter up to the top of the cabinet, and she was hanging on by both her feet, her front paws, Lion King style. That was so stressful. But she managed to like unhook her claws and just like power bomb onto the cabinet. But like, oh my god. Cat.
Is she all right?
She's okay, I think, but that must have been a lot of stress on her claws and her feet. Poor baby.
I like how cats are always get themselves in situations they need help with.
This is 2-0 right now. She was outside for an hour. That was my fault, actually. And then she just Mufasa'd herself. I was fully ready to jump off the bed. I'm not on the bed, but there is a blow-up mattress in the middle of my living room because I haven't put it away after my friend stayed the night like last week. But I was fully going to spring off the bed to save her, but she saved herself, which is good. But also
It
that
is
was very
stressful.
stupid.
That does sound stressful, but I have to admit, watching cats reap the consequences of their actions sometimes is really funny to me.
True. Talk about stressful podcast recording.
Yeah, something always goes awry. That's why we
It's
need.
usually my fault.
That's why we need me. I'm the little gremlin that's like, you got it, mouse, and then I fix it.
Yes. But the thing about you is that you stay silent for an hour and then you do that. You pop out of like the rafters.
That's what I am. I'm the fan favorite side character that doesn't get much attention.
And just appears when there needs to be a joke.
Yes.
But like honestly, that was fucking crazy. But
I don't even know. I can't even imagine what they were trying to achieve with that.
well, she can sometimes walk on the tops of the cabinets, but she has to reach it from the loft upstairs. And this time she was like, "No, I can jump it." And she just didn't it turns out she couldn't jump it, and so she like she like was hanging as like how I would do a pull-up almost. Or not a pull-up, so like it was like that. It was like she was like, "No, Scar, no, you were my brother, Anakin." It was like real bad. She's laying down now. She got tired. She's also really fat, and like that was probably a lot of movement for her.
Hold on. In case whoever's editing this like spaced out, this is the part where you come back in.
Oh, I'm definitely keeping some of that Lion King shit in.
Okay, keep the Lion King shit in, but you don't have to keep all of that in.
Don't keep. Oh, fuck! It smells like shit in here. Don't keep.
Don't
this
keep the
part.
part where I said my social security number.
Oh yeah.
God, let's not do that. Why did you put your social security number?
We didn't.
That'd be funny.
It's a joke. Yeah, no, we did. Actually, I changed my mind. I changed my mind on the truth. Cat tail right by the mic. That was probably a great sound.
It was fine. I didn't hear it.
Good. I do want to emphasize that I really liked this setup. Like, immediately we get a personality from this bartender who is probably not going to come up again. And, Mnemosyne, and we don't know much about the Namer yet, but I feel like he's got that like oracle vibe. We already, just by like dialogue and how they're bouncing off each other, we get some insight onto who these characters are personality wise, and I like that a lot. Again, 3 pages. Hard to do in 3 pages.
Yeah, it does establish a lot. I think that funny enough, I do want it to be longer, just because.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's something to read within. But I know that they're just establishing things, and that's great. I would say the conciseness with it, how it brings itself to the reader, has a lot of intention. There's nothing where I am having to doubt it. Unironically doubt it. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. I would say I can't wait.
Mm-hmm. I definitely want to see more of this, and I hope that we haven't totally fucked ourselves and lost Chaya's interest in our show. I hope she comes back, or her work comes back. I mean,
yeah, it's good work actually. I mean, for an expert, I'm excited to see if they ever expand more onto this and maybe write a chapter or maybe write a short story about it. I think it'd be very fascinating.
I think this is going to be novel length, if I'm not wrong. But also, I don't remember. So again,
we'll see. We'll see in the future.
We'll see. Futures yet untold. This was the Mnemosyne Cycle by Chaya Pritchett, and you can find Chaya on Instagram at Chaya the Cat, where you can find the link to their album Spectral Memories, and Chaya the Cat, ChaiaTheCat. I am bad at spelling aloud. And one last editing echo here to say I'm sorry for saying everyone's name wrong. It is actually Kaya. Thank you. And so I think that's it for this episode. Do you guys want to talk about... Oh, fuck. Sorry. Do you want to have a question of the day? We can skip that part.
Honestly, I don't have a question today. I was kind of just ready to read the pieces. If you have one,
oh yeah, I didn't come up with one either. Cyrus, do you have one?
Let me come up with one on the spot. What?
This is good content.
Is there ever a No, I have one. Is there ever a necessity for a book or short story, whatever you're writing, to be printed on a specific type of paper?
That's a wild question.
Like the average printed like book has just like the same paper that it's always printed on.
Right.
But like, what do you think would be the purpose if someone wanted a different type of paper, like valium or like plastic or even see-through or textured?
Pretentiousness.
What do you guys think about that?
Pretentiousness.
Pretentiousness, yeah.
I mean, House of Leaves does that. It does have different printed paper, if I remember correctly. I think it varies on intention. It varies on, like, I would say pretension sometimes if it's just some really like gold leaf paper. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit much for a book. You know, like something. Yeah, like I think in regards of just like it'd be really cool to have tactile, like to have it where you could, like, almost sounds like Braille, like a person like printing a book in Braille would be a fascinating concept and still readable for people who can see who can't see. But then the
that would be
words
like
as
a
printed is
giant
also in Braille.
thing.
It would be actually, yeah.
I guess you
It'd
could
be
probably do that with like a children's book, right?
Yeah, you can, but it's still be pretty long though, since it's Braille. But
Yeah.
like, I would say, I that's a really fascinating question. Like the production of a book, you know, the actual material condition of a book. Like what? I mean, I think for accessibility, I would just do it like, you know, a typical book. I would to publish a novel, I would be like a typical book. But if I would be like, if it's a special edition, something that requires a lot more attention, and yeah, I would put it on Braille, just like literally, just like open my book in Braille, do it. Like if I had the clout and the bloody money to do it, I'd be like, just print it in Braille. Why just do it? I don't care.
Everyone
I do have a blind
needs to
character.
see.
Yeah, everyone needs to.
Audiobooks
There
go
was
to
this
hell.
ironically scene there.
Audiobooks can rot in hell. We need Braille paper copy.
It'd be really fascinating. I don't know if it'd be impossible to
I'm thinking
translate
of the
Braille to
logistics
audiobook.
of like closing the book. Like the page would have to have a hollow back for the bumps to be like on the top of the page, right? Like the pages would have to be like concave a little bit. Do I know what Braille is? I think I know what Braille is.
Braille,
It's
the
the dots.
bumps.
The bumps, yeah. So
Yeah.
the bumps, well, you wouldn't be able to close the book all the way. So you would need
Well,
like...
have you seen Braille books?
No,
They're like really
are they
big.
big? I'm so stupid.
They're really big. They're like huge.
Yeah. But I was thinking, you know how like children's book have like those thick ass pages?
Yeah.
Like you could just like
They're-
hollow out like hollow out the back a little bit. And so they would close normally like a children's book, but it would have bumps.
Okay.
Anyway, I have a kind of not quite related thing to say, but for my book, I actually have pictures in it, and I have format skew, where the I have set it up so it's specifically format skew for a Google document with the specific print. Like I have it set up where it'll be like I will fully need to, myself, and I will need to completely fix the format of my entire book, specifically because I did it in Google Doc form instead of what size the actual paper will be in a printed form. So that was a choice by me, and it was a bad choice.
It's a bad choice.
Well, at least I know like what it's supposed to look like, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing and be like, oh yeah, I remember this part was a panic attack, and so I wanted to do this with it. Instead, I just did it, and so I just have to like redo it, make it semi-readable. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Or I could make the book like really big, like printer paper size pages, so it is just set up like the Google Doc, and you just read it. You cannot take my book on a plane.
I would ostensibly, you could do like a journal kind of thing, like a special edition journal of the character. If the character gets a lot of what's it called? a lot of influence, right? Everyone likes this character. You can write like a journal having the doodles in there and whatnot. Like, and make it like
What
as
if-
if they.
What if I told you it wouldn't be a special edition and it's the original edition has that already?
Then that's fine.
It's just more work for me, really.
I say go to your publishers trying to like mass print that.
Yeah. Oops. I'll have to go through it and do it all myself because I'm like that. But do you all want to plug any projects you're doing or anything before we sign off?
As of right now, no. I haven't gone that far with like there's some
Love
things,
that.
but I rather write a pitch first and then go from there. So
Okay.
at the moment, no. Probably next episode if you have me.
Yeah,
me
for
again.
sure. Sai?
I am Cyrus Okapi on Twitter and on Instagram. I have a comic, Mother Wilds on Webtoon. That's what I have going on.
I am Echo, wait, I just said my name, sorry. I am Shawnee Boy Echo on Twitter, but Twitter's dying, so I am Echo Sean Corby, no spaces, on Blue Sky, which I'm hoping does not fail, because I moved everything on there. And I have a webtoon called The Sun at Night. It has like 7 eps, and it doesn't upload consistently, so I probably shouldn't have promoted it. I have a book called Non-Binary, Trans, Pan, and Lovesick. It's a book of queer poetry, and it's kind of gross and weird and not great, but you should check it out anyway. It's available on Amazon.
What a pitch.
I know. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble website. Bye!
Goodbye.
Take care, everybody.